I'm Irene Calda, your reporter for the shift from international governance to global governance. So, international governance mainly focuses on the cooperation between states through formal institutions like the UN, World Bank, or WTO, and its goal is to manage the state relations and avoid conflict. However, in the global governance, it is wider and it includes not just the state but also the international organizations, corporations, NGOs, and even the citizens. It deals with the problem that affects everyone, like the climate change, pandemics, terrorism, migration, and the digital security. So this shift from international governance to global governance happened because the world became more interconnected and many challenges are too big for states alone. So solutions that require the participation of multiple actors at the global level emerge. So the international governance, which is states managing relations, and the global governance is how many actors plays an important role in managing the global problems altogether. And let's proceed with understanding international governance. There are key actors in international governance. There is the states and IGOs, the governments and international organizations like the UN that makes us follow the rules. There are also this market forces, which includes the businesses and this global economy that influence each other's or the state's in the state's decision. Then there are this civil society actors, which is the NGOs, advocacy groups, and citizens, which push for fairness and accountability. So, what are the missions of international governance? So, these are as follows: there is security, legal certainty, the channels of participation, and the correction of inequalities. For security, it is how to protect states and people from threats. For legal certainty, it is to ensure the rules and the laws are being respected and followed. For channels of participation, it gives group a voice to build cooperation and for a shared understanding. For the correction of inequalities, it is to reduce unfair gaps that are created by global market. Then let's proceed to the challenges to international governance. First, there is this technological revolution. Number one, the ICT growth that brought actors like the NGOs and citizenship into world politics. Then the creation of issues such as the internet regulation, cybersecurity, and interstate conflicts. We also have the international governance that struggles because of the rules that were designed only for states and IGOs. Then the next challenges to international governance would be globalization. So the increase of interconnectedness changed the relations among states, markets, and even civil society. The new actors such as the corporation, these advocate groups, the NGOs, those social movements became more influential in in a globalized world. Then these free markets that have widened the gap between the rich and poor, then eventually fail in reducing poverty. The next challenge to international governance would be the end of the Cold War. So the UN gained more freedom but faced new ongoing wars. There are these ongoing wars with different countries as of today. Then the World Trade Organization or the WTO expanded but struggles with larger responsibilities. The UN or the United Nations keep uh, peacekeeping missions that grew and straining resources and limiting effectiveness. Then after that, we have the governance gaps. The first governance gap would be the jurisdictional gap. It is it have many problems today, like the climate change and pollution are global, but governments still focuses on their own national policies. Because of this, the solutions are often weakened and uncoordinated. And at the same time, new actors like the NGOs or the non-government organizations and big companies or corporations also influence the global decisions, which then reduce the control of national governments. Its impacts is that it shows that states alone cannot solve the global problems, so the global governance is needed to bring everyone together. Then next for the international gap would be operational gap. So policymakers often lacked in the right information, data, or tools to create effective policies, especially for complex issues like the environments. Scientific experts and the NGOs help in providing research and turning it into knowledge that leaders can use. This gap proves that the global governance must rely on continuous learning and contributions from different actors such as the NGOs or the big corporations for the researches that the leaders can use and not just the states alone. The third uh, governance gap would be the international I mean would be the incentive gap. The international agreements. So as I was saying, the incentive gap is where the international agreements are difficult to enforce because there are no strong punishments for states to do that they should follow them. Instead, the compliance often depends on only on the moral pressure or the naming and shaming. This impacts the shift as it makes the international governance weaker, and it shows that global governance must create a better system that encourages the cooperation without breaking the state sovereignty. Then the last for the governance gaps would be the uh, participatory gap. So many groups and ordinary people are excluded from the international decision making even though they are affected by the outcomes of it. So this citizens, especially in many democratic states, feel disconnected from the global political process. So when people or groups are being left out, they are less likely to respect or follow the rules that the international governments set for them. So this gap highlights that the importance of inclusiveness in global governance, which in global governance is being created, is it just where more actors and voices must be part of the decision making of the laws or the policies that being pushed to them to follow. So this for governance gaps, the jurisdictional, operational, incentive, and participatory shows that the limits of international governance and explains why the world move or shift through to global governance. It because global governance allows more actors, better cooperations, stronger compliance, and wider participations to deal with the global problems today. So let's proceed with the need for transformations. So the international governance system failed to respond to the new problems that is created with the aspirations, but with the aspirations of these new actors in global governance, there is highlighted the need for more effective responsive governance system. So these transformative drivers are these new actors, which includes the emergence of corporations, the NGOs or non-government organizations, as well as the advocacy groups or networks. We also have this transformative driver, which is the legitimacy concerns, which is the need for greater participation and accountability. We also have the global challenges, where the environmental issues, the security threats, and across the border is on, and the technological change in which information revolution enabling new forms of participation. So thus the international governance needs to transform itself. The policymakers and scholars analyze these transformative drivers. As I said earlier, these are the new actors, the legitimacy concern, the global challenges, as well as the technological change. And for this is the uh, difference between the international and global governance. So in international governance, it has a state-centric approach. However, in global governance, it is a multi-actor network approach. In international governance, it is a hierarchical structure, or there are hierarchy of structure in international governance. However, in the global governance, there is none. It is a non-hierarchical network. So in international governance, it is limiting the participation of the citizens, and in global governance it have a broader stakeholder inclusion for the citizens to participate. And international governance, it is national focus. However, in global governance, it is multi-level governance from local to global. And lastly, in international governance, it is a formal institution. However, in global governance, it is a formal and informal arrangements. Then the last one would be understanding global governance. So global governance, it can be described as the output of a non-hierarchical network of international and transnational institutions. Not only IGOs, but also the international regimes or corporations are included, as well as the NGOs or advocacy groups. These are the four factors of global governance. The network structure. It is a non-hierarchical network of international and transnational institutions. It has a comprehensive framework where the sum of laws, policies, and institutions that define constitute and mediate transborder relations. This is also a multi-level approach that involves the national, international, subnational, regional, and the local levels. It is also a decentralized authority in where no central authority, or there is no main power or state uh, that are leading, and there is no global government in global governance. So that's all for the shift from international governance and to global governance.